Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be an offlane tier list for patch 7.37d. And before we get into it, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be streaming every Monday through Friday about 7 p.m. to 1 or 2 a.m. Eastern time for the foreseeable future. So I'm really excited about being able to do that going forward. The link to my Twitch is down below, so be sure to go there and follow so you know when I go live. And I'm planning on doing community games, replay reviews, and some other more interactive things with the community there, so be sure to tune in and check it out. And with that out of the way, let's just jump into it really quickly with the first hero in the S tier, and that is Sand King. I talked about this hero a little bit in the mid tier list, and Dust Devil is the main one you're going to be using as a mid laner, but you can also pick Sand Shroud in the offlane position. You can pick either one, and people are picking both. I think originally people were picking Dust Devil, going for Bloodstone, having this Sandstorm follow them around. It's like a Radiance basically, and you're just doing insane damage, and you are farming super quickly and being very hard to deal with and very tanky because of all the damage you're doing with the Bloodstone. But then people have been kind of countering that a little bit more, understanding how to play around it. So now pros are picking Sand Shroud a lot more because it is a bigger AoE. The fights happen maybe in one location with certain things like Medusa. You know, Medusa doesn't move around a lot, so it can be very good in that sense. It's also maybe good in some lanes where it's hard for the enemy to really track you with the invis, so that can be an added benefit. But I think for the most part, in most MMRs and most pubs, I think Dust Devil is just going to be better overall. And giving that free kind of dynamic way to play is going to be good. And then you also get this Caustic Finale for free now, so you don't have to put points into it. And then you have this free ability, which anything that you're getting for free, like we keep seeing, any hero that has all this new stuff is going to be good. This Stinger ability just makes the laning stage so much better now, because you can just walk up to the creep wave, and if the enemy hero is next to creeps and you're last hitting them and you're using the Stinger, you just do insane amounts of damage. You're slowing them, and now they're, you know, sitting in your Sandstorm for a lot longer. You get 1 point in Burrow Strike, and you Burrow Strike them from like close range. Now they're taking even more damage. It just kind of stacks on top of each other, that this hero can be actually a dominant laner now. And then super hard to bring down, doing insane damage later in the game with that Bloodstone Blink and all that kind of stuff. I will say the only downside to the hero is that you still have 3 abilities that you want to put points into, but really 1 point in Burrow Strike is not that bad. So you can just kind of max out these ones, and then obviously ultimate and all that kind of stuff later. But I think that's the main thing that makes this hero really good. Still decent Ags, decent Shard, all that kind of stuff, but all that free stuff is really what makes Sand King the best. And I think you still want to go for that Dust Devil Bloodstone build to make the hero a menace. And then the next hero is actually Dawnbreaker, and this might be a little bit controversial, but this hero is getting picked a lot more now, and the win rate is kind of insane. So this hero was not really something people were considering or picking very much for the longest time. I mean, this patch has been out for like 2 months, and no one really cared about this hero at all. And then in the recent pro tournaments, you know, a lot of these offlaners were getting banned, and people were like, okay, what do we actually pick? You know, we're not picking Sand King or Beastmaster or whatever. So what do we pick? And people started picking Dawnbreaker, and they're like, wait, this here's actually really good. The facet or the passive isn't that great. Like, this is fine. It's a free thing that you get to reveal the map. I mean, that can be good in pro games, don't get me wrong, but it's not like the big steal. This facet is also pretty good. I mean, having cooldown on her abilities, this is the one everyone's picking, by the way, is good. So whenever you get those 4 hits in, now you have 1 second. If you do this alt click, you have 1 second off your abilities, which is great because these are pretty low cooldown abilities, but now you can spam them even more, and with Soul Ring, that's amazing. But the biggest thing I think that contributes to her being good now is the Ags. People are just rushing Ags and realizing this hero is super tanky, does a lot of damage, honestly, and you can just go straight into Ags and doesn't really need many other items. Like, maybe people are buying one other item, maybe you're getting a blink, maybe people are buying a small item here or there, but a lot of times Ags is like a first item purchase. And with Ags and Shard, you're just kind of an insane hero. Like, honestly, it's just, your save is ridiculous. You're a global hero. You heal a ton. You are hard to bring down. There's all these things that you want from an offlaner, and she just does it perfectly with like 1 item. And so that's really the main thing that is bringing this hero on the upswing, and why I'm putting her in S, even though she's only recently kind of come to fruition, come to the forefront of everyone's mind as being a great offlaner. But I think she definitely deserves it with the win rate that you're seeing on high MMR pubs right now. That's one that I think people are counting out or didn't even think of for the longest time. And then the other 3 heroes, I'm going to go over them briefly. I mean, Beastmaster, it's just an insane Beastmaster patch because both facets are crazy. You can go for the Helm of the Dominator build, go for this Wild Hunt facet, and you just have like a million guys all around you and just do ridiculous amounts of damage. Or you can go for the attack speed build, go for Ags, all that kind of stuff, and just like kill people, solo people with that. Just depends which one you want to get. And then the innate ability is also pretty good too. I mean, the damage block just makes you even tankier. You're just kind of doing all the same stuff that you always used to. There's really nothing super crazy to say about the hero. Just the two facets are great, and the two different builds you can go are great. If it's a really good game for all the, the Helm of the Overlord, you can go for that. If it's not, you can just right-click people to death, and it's insane with the Ags. And obviously having a BKB piercing stun is not that bad either. The hero gets so tanky, so hard to bring down, can solo carries, all that kind of stuff, pushes extremely fast. I mean, it's just a Beastmaster patch, honestly, guys. What else do we have to say about that? He's also a universal hero, which is still very, very good. So that's Beastmaster for you. Then next we have Enigma. So Enigma is one of those that they nerfed the hero. They changed how the hero worked, where you now spawn these Eidolons by just like consuming health, almost like a Phoenix. And people thought, oh, that's terrible. You can't deny creeps anymore. This is really bad. And maybe it was at the time. And then it's gotten some buffs over the recent patches, over the recent year or so. And so now it's kind of back into the spotlight as being, oh wait, this hero's actually still really good. You still have Black Hole. You still have all the same things that you've done for the kind of entire history of Enigma. But the laning stage is still pretty good. You can still spawn these Eidolons. They're still pretty tanky. And then you have this free passive with damage reduction to allies, which is pretty good. You have Event Horizon, which is a facet that just like makes people moving away from you have a move speed penalty, which is a little bit weird, but hey, that's really good in the lane. I mean, it's not bad. And then this Splitting Image, which can also be good in the lane too, where if you take damage, you just spawn Eidolons, which can be overwhelming. I mean, these Eidolons can do a ton of damage early and push towers really, really well. So people are going for kind of both these, similar to Beastmaster, where it's like, is this the pushing one that you want to go for, or do you want to go for just a straight up facet that allows you to harass more, just be better overall in like this weird way that you don't really even think about, but it affects the hero and the team fights and all that kind of stuff to some degree. That's the biggest thing with the hero, because the hero has always been this like late game beast. Refresher ultimate is just absurd. I mean, it's always going to be that way. It feels like that's just the definition of the hero. So the question is, can you get there? Is your laning stage good? And I think people have realized now that, oh wait, this laning stage actually is pretty decent now. It is survivable. You can push, all that kind of stuff. We weren't just reliant, or we're not reliant anymore on just denying creeps and pulling the wave back and all that kind of stuff like it used to be back in the day when you could do that kind of stuff. So that's the main change with the hero. It's nothing super crazy. It's just you can lane now, you can actually have a real game and participate, and then you have black holes later. That's really all it is. And then next we have Visage. So the biggest thing with Visage is that this facet death toll is just kind of insane. So you're getting extra gold whenever you kill people with Soul Assumption, which is just happening a ton in the lane right now. And you're getting ability cooldowns when you don't take damage. So what's happening is you're just like harassing people in the lane, and this is happening a lot with like you're pairing it with like a bounty hunter or something else that's just running around spamming at people and just, doing a ton of damage to the enemy. And then you're just Soul Assumptioning people and killing them like full to zero. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, heroes kind of always done that, but now you're getting even more gold and you're snowballing the game out of control, and then it's impossible to deal with this hero at like 15-20 minutes. Now this hero does fall off a little bit later in the game, so it's one of those where this is maybe more of a pro meta kind of push strategy, dominate the map, dominate the game in the laning stage, and therefore end the game like early. That's kind of what Beastmaster and some of these other heroes do as well, but keep in mind that you can still do that in the lower MMRs. You can still take over the game and absolutely destroy. It's just that you have to be wary that later in the game it's going to fall off a little bit. So just keep that in mind. But overall, this is the meta. I mean, this hero is absolutely destroying in most high MMR pubs where they do coordinate a lot. So that's Visage. Oh, and then this, I said this passive is pretty good too, but again, it's mostly just about the fact that it's absolutely destroying the lane and being very hard to deal with and snowballing with that gold. Then we have A tier. So A tier, we have Legion Commander here. I think this hero is just pretty good right now overall. I mean, you're going to still choose the facet that gives you the shield. That was broken when it first came out. Now it's not as good as it was, but it's still very good. Having that lockdown is still going to be great since they changed the kit to allow you to use your Q during your duel. That just makes it so much better. Having a save with a purge is going to be great. You're still able to lane very well and man fight a lot of melee carries in the lane. The difference is that there's a lot of range carries now that are going to be good, so that's what makes this hero not as good as maybe like S tier like it could be. It's also maybe not the best like pro hero, in pro meta or whatever, but it still is very good, especially in pubs. Like, you can absolutely dominate with this hero in pubs. It's very good and does all the same things Legion has pretty much always done. And then we have Axe. This hero is good in, I think, pros and in pubs. It's just good overall. It was absolutely broken, and they nerfed one-man army, but you can still pick that. It's still very good. BKB piercing stuns are just always going to be good right now. The hero just does insane amounts of damage. You can go Bloodstone in the hero. It's not like necessary. It's not a requirement. It's not something where like with Sand King, you're going it almost every game. Sand Kings even have been buying less of it these days. But you can go it, and that just heals you even more. It makes you even tankier. You're able to jump in and just do a lot of damage, but then also be impossible to kill, all that kind of stuff. Or you can just play the normal axe kind of way that you've always been able to play, and it's still very good for those reasons. Then we have Bristleback. Kind of more of a carry these days in some ways because of the way the facets work, but you can still pick this hero offlane and you're playing like offlane carry-ish Bristleback in the same way that you always have. If you're going to play offlane Bristleback, you're pretty much always going to be picking Seeing Red almost every time because you don't want that like goo one that people are picking sometimes for the carry role. So you're going to be focusing a little bit more on, you know, having that tank ability, facing your back to people. And because of that, you're probably going to buy Bloodstone every time. From the carry role, you're not always going to be buying Bloodstone. You're going to be buying more right-click items, I'd say. You can still buy it, but offlane Bristleback, 100% buying Bloodstone every single time, and then kind of transitioning into that semi-carry in that way as well. And then we have Night Stalker, just a great hero overall for laning and then for just dominating team fights, giving that vision, doing all the same things Night Stalker has always done. The two big things is if you really want a good laning stage, you can make it night for the first 5 minutes, but actually I would prefer, and I think the one that's better is the one where you blind the enemies when you, at nighttime, when you're like using your ultimate and you're using your void on them, they like the vision with allies is not shared anymore, which is really, really good. So you can just focus on supports that way. You can even focus on carry heroes, some of these range carries, you jump in on them, you silence them, you void them, and then like their team has a very, very hard time helping them out, and you can just kind of solo people, focus the backline, and sometimes even focus cores with this hero. That's what makes this hero really good right now. Then Primal Beast, just a decent overall hero, good as a mid, good as a offlaner too, for the same reasons I said it was good as a mid. You get that increased movement speed, and you do more damage to towers now. Just all around a decent hero. Nothing super special, super broken about it. I would say maybe you could argue it's B tier, but the win rate seems to say that it's pretty good as an offlane right now, so that's why I'm putting it up here in A. Then next is Doom, and when this hero was first changed to allow enemies to use items when they were doomed and they couldn't regen, people were like, that's pretty bad. But then I think over time, people realized, wait, this is actually kind of really good because, yeah, sure, you can press BKB, you can Force Staff, you can TP away, but that doesn't really help you if you're squishy and if I did a ton of damage to you as a Doom already, because you're just going to be sitting in Fountain, not regenning, and just ticking down. And so, yeah, sure, there are some saves, there are some shields and stuff that you can use against Doom, but you have to have something like that. Otherwise, you're going to die because the Doom is going to press BKB, run at you, Doom you, and it's going to be hard to deal with that for most heroes, especially squishy cores. So any core that doesn't have, like, you know, 4k HP is really going to not like getting doomed. It's very good against heroes that rely on regen, like an Alchemist, like a Slark. Any of these kinds of heroes, it's just going to absolutely destroy. And if you do have like a Queen of Pain or a Storm Spear, or any hero that likes to cast abilities and is relatively squishy, doesn't have a ton of HP, Doom is absolutely going to hard counter them. And then, of course, late game, you get the refresher, all that kind of stuff. I think people are just realizing how good that regen reduction is, and that hasn't been something that has really been considered before since it's been changed, and now it's really good. So that's why it's A tier here. But it does all the same things Doom's pretty much always done. Then next we have Terrorblade, and this is a little bit of a weird one because this hero is a carry. Like, let's just be honest. This is a carry hero. The only reason that people are picking it off lane is because Reflection is so broken that you can basically just max Reflection, and the enemy carry and the support can't deal with it. And so after a few levels, like, you just cast Reflection on the enemy and they just have to run away, and sometimes you can just dive the tower with Reflection and meta and there's nothing they can do. And then because of that, because you dominate the lane, you can just buy Pipe. You can buy Auras, which are typical off-lane items, and then transition from there to be a carry. Because this carry from the off-lane has become more of a thing, then that allows this TV to kind of slip in as a weird kind of off lane. I'm not super sold on it in the sense that I don't know how really viable this is, but hey, it has a good win rate. It's getting picked a lot. High MMR players are playing it, so that means it definitely is good. And hey, in lower MMR pubs even, having a carry from the offlane is not something that's necessarily bad. I just don't know how much that translates to your pubs, so I'd be a little bit wary of doing that, of picking the Terrorblade in the offlane position, but hey, it can work. It clearly is something that has some potential, so just keep an eye out for it. It's not necessarily grief, so if somebody picks it, it's not griefing, but it's just a little bit awkward, a little bit weird, but hey, I had to include it here. It is what it is. Then we have Lycan, discount Beastmaster. Let's just be honest. You can run around, kill supports, you do insane damage. People are not picking the one where the wolves just follow you or whatever. People are picking the one where the wolves are like ridiculous. Like I think the wolves have like 5 or 6 levels or whatever, and the wolves just like destroy people. You can literally just send the wolves at the supports and then fight the carry, because the wolves are just going to kill the support by himself, and then you can just fight the carry. So that's what's making this hero absolutely ridiculous. And then the same thing, you can like get the Ags, bite your melee carry or whatever if you have one, then just they run in and just destroy or whatever. That can be very, very good as well. Imagine like a Medusa running around, like melee Medusa, and just like destroying people and just being infinitely tanky. That'd kind of be insane. I haven't really seen that before, but anyway, that's why this hero can be pretty good overall. It's just not as broken as maybe Beastmaster, but it is pretty good. And then Broodmother kind of has been a carry off lane that's been really good in past patches. It's been nerfed a little bit, but it's still decent here. You can definitely get away with picking it. It's definitely going to be good. Still has a decent laning stage, controls an area of the map, just melts supports if they're in the wrong position, and can go high ground, all that kind of stuff. And you can buy auras if you want. You can buy pipe, crimson, all these different things. You can go for the carry build if you need to. So those are the different options for that as well. So that's A tier. Next is B tier. We have Centaur here. He's pretty good. Generally a decent hero, just not as broken as he once was. You know, he's still going to do all the same things, get very tanky, buy a Blink Dagger, buy a Shiva's, buy a Heart, buy a BKB, do all that kind of stuff. Nothing super different, nothing super crazy. The Ags is still a meme, all that kind of stuff, but it's not as, the numbers aren't just insane like they used to be, they're just good. Then Timbersaw, very good right now, has some weaknesses, has some strengths, can get very tanky and absolutely melt people and delete people. It's just at a weird spot because the win rate sometimes isn't as good. Maybe that's because people aren't picking it or don't know how to play it as much, even though people are picking it a lot. It's just, that's why I put it at B. I think it is a specialist hero. You do need to know how to play it. I think if you know what you're doing and you practice this hero, you can absolutely dominate games with it. Then Pango, just more weaker, just weaker as an offlaner, more of a mid than an offlaner. And so that's kind of why it's in B tier. A tier probably from mid, so just keep that in mind. Just the laning stage isn't as good, you can be taken advantage of for sure, but if you can get to that point, if you can survive the lane, get some farm, you can definitely have a lot of impact with the Pango. Then Mars, I feel like this hero is always either like B, A, or S. Even if it is like bad, people still pick it a ton. I think it just does all the same things that it did before. The only main difference that makes this hero really good is now when you cast your ultimate with the one facet, the enemy can't see inside your arena, so they don't share vision with the allies, and that is a huge deal actually for team fights, because vision is insane. So if you have some kind of oracle or some kind of save hero, there's not really much you can do. I mean, maybe you could have a ward, you could plant it down or whatever. That's something you can do, I guess, but people aren't going to do that in pubs, and you can just delete the people in the arena. So once you cast arena, whoever has the arena on them like has to press BKB or whatever, and you know, that's not always going to happen until they have BKB, or maybe you're going to surprise them, all those kinds of things. So it can be very, very good for that reason. It's also a very good puck counter because of Yules and all that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind, or Storm, or any of these other heroes that are very elusive. Then we have Mag. Again, Mag doing the same thing that he's always done. Very good at RP, very good at skewering people back, doing all those same annoying Mag things. If you have a good damage dealing mid, a good damage dealing carry, and you just need some control, Mag is the one that's there for you to do that. Again, nothing else crazy about the hero. Slardar kind of middle of the road. Maybe you could even say he's C, but when he is picked, he does have a pretty decent win rate. It's just that he can be taken advantage of. Sometimes in the lane with these ranged carries, it can be very annoying to play a Slardar. Otherwise, if you can have a good lane, you can get off to a good start, you can run people down, you can be very tanky and hard to deal with and win games. And, you know, you help with Roche, you help with all these things, you amp up damage, you are very good against, like, for instance, Bounty Hunter, which is a very good hero right now. So if there is a Bounty Hunter on the team, Slardar can be a good counter to that, just because obviously you're giving vision of him, and that's very important because he can be so annoying in the fights if you just let these invis heroes roam around. Otherwise, just kind of middle of the road average hero. Then DK, kind of more of a carry these days, but you can definitely pick this hero off lane. You can still go the like spread damage red talent where you're kind of farming. I would say you might want to go for the blink on the offlane DK just because you want to participate a little bit more. You don't want to just sit back and farm. But if you're going to go blink, you can still go for armlet. You can still go for Mask of Madness, S and Y, crit. You can still go for all that. Just add the blink in there and then just go for the carry build. That's really the only difference, I would say. And then Viper can be an offlaner, can be pretty good, can dominate. the lane and just snowball the game. I would say he's decent at all of that. He just has some downsides that can be taken advantage of that some of these other heroes don't. He's not ganking as much. He's not setting up the team. But if you have like Tusk on your team, if you have some of these other mid laners that love jumping in, you don't necessarily need to, you know, compensate for that. You can be like a backliner, a right clicker. You can be a hero that just counters. You need the break in the team or something like that. So it can be very good for that in a lot of ways. But it does have those downsides, that being slow, not farming super quickly, all that kind of stuff. Then C tier, all these heroes are okay, but they're not the best. Kunkka, okay, just not the best. You'd rather have, you know, an axe or something like that. You'd rather have almost any other hero. For control, because the control isn't as good as it once was, the damage isn't really there. It's decent, just not the best. Tidehunter, I think it's maybe a little bit underrated for the Shard. I think the Shard can be very good, but the ultimate just feels super underwhelming compared to what it used to be. Like, I feel like so many of these other heroes have so much better control than this Tide ult that just feels really bad recently. And then like his laning stage, I don't know, it just can be very bad against some of these ranged heroes. You can be taken advantage of like crazy. You're not farming jungle stacks maybe as much as like an Axe or a Bristle or like a Sand King or any of these, you know, Beastmaster. So what are you really doing? You're just like an ultimate bot. And if you're in a game where Tidehunter feels like you can cast other abilities and not just be like an ultimate guy, then sure, it's good, but otherwise not great. Underlord was good at one point when people were like, oh, this new facet with the ultimate and like that can be really good. And I think it was okay, but I didn't really believe in it at the time. It did get a little bit of a nerf and I still don't think it's great. I like the concept of the hero. I would like to see this hero good. Like I want to see a patch where this hero is absolutely broken or good and good for a while. You know, I like the hero. I like the concept of the hero, but it just seems like every time it gets a little bit good, it's just nerfed again. And it just always is sitting down here in D or C, which is disappointing to me because I like the hero. Then we have Bounty, broken hero, very good from the support, probably the best 4 position in the game right now, but just, you know, it's only C tier because 4 position Bounty is great, but 3 position Bounty, like, that's just not going to be good. You get taken advantage of at the core position, you fall off in this way where you just rather have any of these other heroes. You don't initiate fights. You don't really do a ton of damage like these other right-click heroes. You just don't do all the things you want your offlaner to do. Bounty, it could be good as an offlaner in some situational lineups, but again, in pubs, it's just, I wouldn't pick it. Brewmaster, if you're a Brewmaster spammer, you can totally pick this. I think it's viable to some extent. It's just not good like it once was. They nerfed a bunch of the things about the hero. The hero was broken with Ags and all that stuff for many different, you know, times in the last year or two, with the double ultimate or with the little panda following you around. And then a bunch of stuff got nerfed and nothing was really added to the hero. So that's why it's sitting down here at C. Marcy, probably more of a support. You can play it kind of core with the BKB and stuff, but you could just do that as a support, so why would you not do that? And again, it can be taken advantage of from a lot of these ranged carries and stuff like that, and sometimes can be countered and just not feel very good. Razor, I think, could be very good in some matchups and some lineups. Again, not really great laning against a lot of these ranged carries, though, because you want to stick on top of the enemy carry, chase them down, and snowball from there. Otherwise, you're not farming. Like, you know, a lot of these other carries or a lot of these other offlanes are farming almost as fast as a carry, and Razor doesn't really do that. Now, if you do have to like really counter one of these heroes and there isn't like a Luna or a SF or whatever that's just going to delete you or that you can actually get on top of, maybe Razor's going to be good, but otherwise it's just middle of the road. Pudge, again, it feels like a Tidehunter or a Kunkka or an Underlord. Like, you're melee, you're tanky, you can maybe buy ores, you can do the things Pudge does, but you're just all reliant on hook and like just getting so fat that you're hard to deal with, and you're not going to do that in every single game, so that's why it can be bad. Vengeful Spirit, I mean, I guess the Ags rush is okay, but that's the main thing you're going to be doing. It just doesn't feel great to always be, oh, I'm just going to die in the beginning of the fight every time and have my illusion spawn. That can be okay, but you'd rather get that same effectiveness from the support version of the hero. And you honestly, these days, even though this hero doesn't farm very quickly, you can get that kind of farm on supports these days a lot of times. And then the same thing with Phoenix. Phoenix would be maybe more of a mid, because from the offlane, you're not getting the experience and the levels or the experience and the gold that you want. You're still going to be taking advantage of a lot from that first ultimate, which isn't that good. And it just feels like you need to outpace people with how this hero goes, or you need to be a support that's not really relying on getting items and gold that much, and you're kind of just this complementary piece to the team fights. So that's why offlane just isn't a a good place for Phoenix because it's too middle of the road. It either wants to go all in for golden experience or just be a very complementary piece that doesn't need any of it. And then Darkseer, it's just not a very good Darkseer patch, I think mainly because of the carry matchups. It's going to be taken advantage of in lane. It's going to be hard to hit these good ultimates, to hit these big vacuums and all that kind of stuff because of the heroes that you're playing against. And that's the main reason this hero is just not good right now, I think. Then we have D tier. All these heroes are just pretty bad. Like, CK is just at a weird spot, not really an offlaner. I would love it to be an offlaner. I like playing this carry offlane style with Chaos Knight, but he's not very good right now. Tiny, just not the best hero right now. And then as an offlaner, that's probably like its worst role, to be honest. So that's why it's down here. Wraith King was kind of an offlaner there for a while. I could almost delete this hero from the list, but you could still play like carry offlane Wraith King. I mean, that still can happen. Necrophos, it's kind of like a Phoenix in the way where you're like going all in. You want to go all in with the experience and the gold, like from the mid lane if you're going to play the hero. Off lane just feels like you can get run at, killed, have no game, and then just do nothing. And like you really actually do want to buy travels on this hero so you can run around the map and be fast, but you don't want to do that from the off lane because that's basically griefing, to be honest. Death Prophet just at a bad spot right now. I think if it is good, it can be a good offlaner. It's almost more of an offlaner these days anyway than a mid. So... or like when it is good, it's usually an offlaner. So it's not that it's like more of a different position, it's just that it's a bad hero. And then Wind Ranger, more of like a carry or a mid, maybe an offlane here and there, but just bad. I mean, it's not a good hero now these days since the nerf the ultimate that I've mentioned before. Earthshaker, another one that's actually like a Phoenix, where you just want to be all in on the gold and the damage and everything from mid lane, making plays, or you just want to be this complementary piece as a support. Offlaner is like a weird middle ground that doesn't feel that great. Venomancer, actually, I almost want to put Venomancer over here. He's just like really bad. I don't know. He just feels like, what are you doing as a Veno, as a 3 position? Like you want to be a 4 or 5 position because then you can just ult people and be annoying, and you don't care if you die as much. Where what are you really doing other than buying auras as a 3, and then you're just really fully relying on your mid and your carry to like right click and do a bunch of stuff in fights. Tusk, just more of a support right now. Doesn't feel like he really needs gold to do anything. Maybe a blink, but that's it. Like, what are you really buying the gold for on this hero? I mean, you can go like the meme, like pub build where you're going Deso and stuff, but that's not something people are really going to do much. Winter Wyvern, again, not much of a core, not a great hero right now. Could be if they buff the hero and it gets back into the meta, but it's just not good. Spirit Breaker, more of a support. Again, what are you really doing with the gold? I mean, all you really need is a Shadow Blade, and that seems like that's it. So having that golden experience doesn't help you very much. And then Abaddon, just not as much of a core. It'd be cool to see this hero as a core, but it's really just all in on the support. You're just really saving people, healing people, maybe getting an Ags later to help people when they're getting gone on if there's like one guy on your team that you really need to save, and that's how the hero works. As like a, you know, a carry or an off lane, it just doesn't feel that great right now, especially since they changed the hero's passive. I mean, the passive is good in this one way, and it feels like it could be more of a carry passive, but then at the same time, it's not as like effective as it once was. Then F tier, I would say, don't pick Alchemist off lane. I've seen people do it. It just feels bad. Like, it's just honestly half grief. Like, you can get away with it, but don't do it. Bat Rider's support. Lone Druid just feels like not at a great spot, and then the off lane's like the worst role. Nature's Prophet, I would say, is more of a carry, more of maybe even a support. Off-lane Nature's Prophet is almost like picking Alchemist, a bit of a grief. Nyx Assassin is a great support. One of the best supports, not really an off-lane, feels very weird. Snapfire, I could almost take this hero off the list. I feel like I always want to take it off the core lists, but then as soon as I want to take it off, it just gets back into the core list as being like a right-click, you know, core in some way. But maybe I could take it off the off-lane list because it hasn't been an off-lane for a very long time. So I'm actually going to remove that. And then Clockwork, I'm actually putting this down here as F tier. You could argue that it's actually a little bit better. This hero can be played as a support and as a core. It's a really good support right now. And actually, I think you can even play this hero mid. I've been seeing some mid Clockworks do pretty well. It can get some farm. It can actually lane really well mid. It's actually kind of a menace mid sometimes. If you get people in your cogs, you will delete them and just destroy them. But off lane doesn't really work like that. It's more defensive. You can't take advantage of positioning as much. You're not going to get people like under your tower as much. So it's really just all of a support or a mid, and that's kind of, you know, similar to Phoenix or Earthshaker or something like that. So that is my offlane tier list, guys. Everyone, thanks for watching. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all those kinds of things. Be sure to tune into my stream Monday through Friday, 7 to 1 or 2 a.m. Eastern time. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.